can only mean one thing. Someone is passed out. Don't fade me yet. I'm going to keep the vibe going. That music can only mean one thing. Someone's passed out in the parking lot. Not really. It means I'm Des Dickerson. I'm back with you today, sitting in for the hardest working man in media, Chad Benson. You know, Chad starts his day at like 2 o'clock in the morning. That's insane. You know, one of these days I'm going to come in here and there'll be like a pile of dust on the chair, you know. But anyway, and yes, you can fade me now, Bill. I am still your MTV refugee, your peripheral visionary and tour guide to the far side. And I'm also your tour guide to perspective and clarity. And we'll unpack, dissect a number of topics today for that purpose. You know, some of you, many of you maybe, have heard me before. Some of you are diehard members of the Based Nation. I'll be talking about the Based Nation a bit more later on. But others of you are hearing me for the first time because I'm like Bigfoot, you know. Hey, there was a dead sighting. I'm here with you sometimes and sometimes in witness protection. But this morning, I'm here. So as we always do, I want to take a minute for those of you who haven't heard me before and kind of set the ground rules and stripe the field. So understand the hour that we're in right now. It's not red versus blue. It's not right versus left. It's not conservative versus liberal anymore. We're living in the age of reality versus unreality. And it's funny, since I started talking about this, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, how many people have kind of latched on to that nomenclature, reality versus unreality. We've gone from different perspectives to different galaxies. It's like, you know, we got in the TARDIS and took off with Doctor Who. So now we have a fully established and entrenched cohort on the left. And we collectively we refer to it as the woke, but see, I prefer to call it the unreality cohort. The unreality cohort reserves unto itself the right to recreate reality in its own image and redefine every aspect of life, both theirs and yours. Now, George Orwell taught us that if you control the language, you control the people. The cohort wants to control the language of we the people in order to control the people. They're the tribe of it is if we say it is. But you know what? That doesn't work anymore. A funny thing happened on the way to their presumed neo-progressive woke takeover. And millions of real Americans rose to their moment, and Donald John Trump was reelected. And since then, clarity and common sense have made a comeback, and at light speed. They thought they could erase us by marginalizing and naming us, but they were wrong. And that's why I stopped calling myself a conservative a long time ago, because they mess with the language, and they label you. They demonize you. So I'm not a conservative. I'm a clear thinker. Every clear thinker adheres to conservative principles, but not every self-identified conservative is a clear thinker. So instead, I'm on a mission to separate the clear thinkers from the Kool-Aid drinkers and to make America think again. I love it. Well-oiled machine. Well, so here's the thing. We got the band back together. Bell's back there. Brother Ken is dropping science on us with the news, as he always does. So it's good. You know, even though, like I said, I'm here and then I'm not, then I'm here and then I'm not. It's always like riding a bicycle. It's always like right back to it. So, I want to do a quick tease because I'm here on a Friday for the first time in a while. And we're going to bring back Freak Out Friday.
Right.
Yeah, baby. In the third hour today.
Sir.
We're going to bring back Freak. I see Brother Ken knows what I'm talking about. He smells what I'm stepping in. And actually, it's a little known fact. I'm the guy that innovated and invented Freak Out Friday. And it was one of those fever dreams a couple of years ago. But it's a simple concept. You call in, again, third hour, you call in, and you share with us on air something that freaks you out. For some people, it's sort of obvious stuff like, spiders or snakes. But, man, we've had some crazy freak out testimonies. Now, the other thing you can do is just, share something that, some experience you've had in the past that was freaky. But what freaks you out? Or what freaky experience? Now, I'm not talking about Rick James freaky. I'm talking about, you know what I'm saying? So that's coming today. That's coming today. And real quick, before I, get as serious as a heart attack, or as they say in Boston, a hat attack, I wanted to real quick say something about Abrego Garcia. Just a quick hit. As soon as they started talking about sending him to Uganda, of course, some left-wing judge decided to block it again and whatever. But if I was Garcia, I'd tell the judge to shut up. Because if I got a chance to be deported to Uganda, dude, he could be the king of Scotland by the end of the week. You know what I'm saying? For those of you who've seen that movie, complete with, Forrest Whitaker eye. Not really. Yeah. But, why risk being incarcerated here when he could live like a king in Uganda? I mean, it'd only take like $1,500 and, he could be living large. So if I were him, I'd book the dadgum flight myself. But anyway, just a quick word about that. So I'm also going to be talking today with you from time to time about a thing called Des Dickerson is Based. Right now, staging area is it's a Facebook page called Des Dickerson is Based. We're slowly moving toward launching a podcast, and it should be soon, actually, called Des Dickerson is Based. So for right now, I want to send you to the Facebook page. Like it, follow, join the based army and get ready for that. But Des Dickerson is Based. And if when you see the logo, you'll see it's like, a wall that's been tagged with what actually says Des Dickerson is biased. And then, the I is crossed out. So it says based. But, one of those visual things that you can't see if you're just listening on the radio. So, all right. So we're going to roll into our first segment this morning. And this is one of those things, it's a pet peeve and a top of mind thing for me. I got to keep an eye on the clock. So if need be, somebody can rattle my chain and let me know, hey, we got to go to break. Shut up. I think I got, 4 more minutes here? So I'm good. So I want to pose the question, what the heck happened to parenting? Well, and it's been, it's not new. It's been going on since the sort of shift from boomer to Gen X to millennial. But, parenting has turned into something unrecognizable. My mom was raised by a grandmother. My mom, man, her story is tragic and triumphant at the same time. Her mom was murdered when she was 4 years old. And she was raised by a grandmother that straight up crazy. Straight up DSM-5. Crazy. So my mom's childhood was hell. And she went from this abusive grandmother escaped at age 18 to move to Detroit to live with an uncle who turned out to be a pimp and wanted to put her to work. So she went from the frying pan, into the cooking oil. But my mom somehow not only survived all that to become an amazing mom, an amazing parent who disciplined according to the common sense principles of the Bible, but one of the strongest people I've ever known. Now, as a parent, she believed in consistency, obedience, parental respect, and yes, spanking. There's probably going to be a SWAT team is going to come through the ceiling because I used that word. But I got to tell you, the specter of a butt whooping from my mom, it kept me right. Kept me right. And some of you know what I'm talking about. She took immediate action in response to any legitimate behavioral infractions. And sometimes that was just looking at her sideways.
She just nipped it in the bud, did she?
She nipped it in the bud, boy. She had more than one bullet, too. She didn't play. Does anybody, Brother Ken, do you remember being sent out to the yard to get your own switch?
Not me, but my grandmother did that for my mom and my aunt and uncle.
Well, there you go. See?
And all I ever got was wait till your dad comes home, and that was usually like a 6-hour wait, and then
Lord.
Sure enough, here it came.
No, I feared my mom far more than my dad. My mom was like 5'2", but she was the Terminator.
Yeah.
But when she had you go get that switch, man, then she'd have you go upstairs and sit on your bed and wait.
And wait.
Holding that switch in your hand. Woo, baby. And she also had this yardstick that she kept in a very visible location.
Yeah.
Served as a constant reminder that disobedience and disrespect would earn a swift response.
Yep.
See, when I was a kid, timeout was for the 2-minute drill in a football game. There were no timeouts.
No. The only timeout that existed for us was probably giving your mom or dad time to grab whatever tool of discipline they were going to get.
That's right. That's right. you wait to find out what your sentence
Right.
is. So, and I know we got to go to break here in a minute, but when I was in my 20s, I actually went back to my mom and I thanked her for spanking me.
Sure.
Because I was a strong-willed knucklehead, man. And had she not been old school, I'd be wearing an orange jumpsuit right now. And I have no doubt about that. But we'll talk about this some more when we come back from the break. We're talking about what the heck happened to parenting. Des Dickerson with you on Super Talk 99.7. Glad to be with you today. We'll be back in a minute. Oh, thank you, WTN Nation, for letting me be myself again. It's good to be back. Des Dickerson with you. So we're talking about what the heck happened to parenting. Now, I just shared, kind of my background and my childhood, but fast forward, see, now I'm the father of 2 sons and a couple of stepkids. My sons are 38 and 12, the little gap in between. But see, because of the benefit that I've learned from how my mom raised me, I've always employed God's biblical parenting framework in disciplining kids because it works. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And see, all we always did was employ a simple 5-point framework. We have a covenant with the kids. If you are disobedient, if you're disrespectful, if you're dishonest, if you're belligerent, or you have a bad attitude, our promise to you is that you earn the consequence of a spanking, swift and sure, no negotiation. And because of that, Our kid, we didn't deal with terrible twos. By the time our kids were like 5, 6 years old, they were golden, and they were a blessing. None of this, they get worse and worse until, you fear them when they get to their teens or their preteens, none of that. And because of it, I have a 38-year-old millennial son who's now married with a wife and 2 kids of his own. Yeah, I'm a grandpa. He's a successful man of modern business. He's been through the whole startup thing. He actually, was at Uber when they were at their peak. And he's a good man. He's just a good man, a good husband, good father. See, I also have a son who just turned 12, but he's well on his way because he was raised this way. He's a true digital creator, a game designer, visionary. He's been working in Blender and Scratch. And for those of you who know what those things are, since he was 9 years old, he's a visionary. And he's also, musician, athlete. Those things have taken the back seat to the ones and zeros, but, we're doing it again. So the successful creation of productive citizens requires the consistent embedding of discipline in children. That's how it works. Unfortunately, this tradition is rapidly fading, actually being dismantled. The modern response to disobedience is to eliminate obedience as a requirement. That's all kinds of stupid. So instead of parenting their kids, modern parents all too often just want to be liked by their kids. They want to be a buddy. And now we have all sorts of parenting terms and philosophies that, they look up on YouTube and emulate, and they're just useless crap. So instead of parenting, the blind are leading the butt naked. Millennials and Zoomers copy each other's approaches to parenting, and none of it works. Discipline and obedience are being replaced by willfulness and selfishness. And the experts will just make up another name and call it a disorder when the problem is that the parents don't parent. Oppositional defiance disorder? That's just a garden variety manifestation of willfulness and obedience. And I told you what my mom's cure for that was. See, what's needed is for millennials and Zoomers to sit at the feet of the boomers who succeeded where they are miserably failing as parents because they themselves are willful and stubborn. They think they and their cohort know better. But the results don't lie. Your free-range monsters are a real-time dumpster fire who will raise even worse kids when it's their turn. So again, I'm thankful to my mom for the legacy she passed on to me. And I will tell you this, if we cross paths in public, I'll correct your little demoniac in the restaurant or the grocery store if they cross me. That's what I'm talking about. What the heck happened to parenting? Des Dickerson with you on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Having more fun than a hog in slop. We'll be back in just a minute. Man, that's like some network news sound of music right there, isn't it?
That sounds like something serious is
I
coming.
know. And if you want something serious, you are in the wrong place. But at any rate, again, band's back together. Brother Ken, Brother Bell, we're in here doing our thing, waving our hands like we just don't care. Not really. If I do that, it hurts my shoulders. But again, remember, we are bringing back Freak Out Friday today in the third hour. So get your stories straight. Get ready. We're going to be opening up the phones in the third hour, which Bell hates. I know, but he's giving it up for the team. But Freak Out Friday, again, simple premise. You call in, share with us on the air whatever freaks you out. If something freaks you out, we want to hear about it. Now, the alternative is you can also share some freaky experience that you've had in the past. And we've had some doozies. I usually end up talking about the lady who was on the freeway in the car with her kids, and like a wasp got into her clothing, and she pulled off the freeway and started disrobing to try to get rid of it. We've had some wild stories. But somebody out there, you got a wilder story, and we want to hear it. So Freak Out Friday, third hour, get ready. All right, moving on. Segment 2, if you're keeping track. Going to talk about the age of ageism. The age of ageism. And it's a direct corollary of our first segment, the lost parenting generations. But a direct corollary of the lost parenting generations is the demise of the respect of elders. I was raised with the respect of elders. You know, and to this day, well, if they're still alive, there are people I would never call them by their first name because you were raised to respect your elders in every way. Yes, sir. No, sir. If you're sitting down, get up and let them have your chair. Respect your elders. Treat them respectfully. And not just your parents, but, teachers, whoever's in charge. Centuries of generations of societies and cultures have followed similar approaches in raising and preparing the next generation. And as a result, strong and stable societies have been built and maintained in many nations for centuries, not just here. I'm talking about in places that you can't pronounce. But because they all adhere to the same principles, and principles matter, if you abandon time-honored and specifically in this nation, biblical principles, the erosion of order is inevitable. Does that sound familiar at all? So when emerging generations foolishly believe they're smarter than those who raised them, society gets dumber and disorder becomes more predominant. Because here's what's actually lacking. What's actually lacking is wisdom. And if you've heard me before, you've heard me say this. Wisdom is a coefficient of time. You remember coefficients, right? Two matrices, and the one across the bottom is wisdom. The one up and down is time. So over time, wisdom increases. The longer you live, unless you're a complete knucklehead, the wiser you get. And wisdom just takes time. You don't become wise just because you graduated with a double major. See, information is mere data. Wisdom is the ability to apply information properly and effectively. In the world of data, a well-known axiom is garbage in, garbage out. Your output will only be as useful and reliable as the quality of your input. But see, right now, we're reaping the whirlwind of multiple generations, several generations now, who've been indoctrinated and fed garbage data disguised as education. And then when they matriculate all the way through to the halls of upper level learning, they conflate their subsequent degrees with worthiness and intelligence and superiority. It reminds me of that scene in The Wizard of Oz where the wizard gives the scarecrow a degree, and all of a sudden he's like a genius. Well, people believe that. And it's a crock. See, this is the credential generation. Well, I have a degree. I don't care, because you might be dumb as a box of rocks. The credential generation believes their degrees are magic, and they make them better and smarter than those who preceded them. And oh my goodness, especially those who don't have degrees. But see, the opposite is true. And it's progressively produced an idiocracy. We have officially become an idiocracy. A movie that was originally a feature film has now become a documentary. It's produced generations with high IQs and a low to non-existent sense of reality. It's a generation with brilliance, and they are brilliant, a lot of them, fueled by stupidity and a knuckle-dragging absence of wisdom. You know, your computer has all sorts of information, but it's dumb as crap. You have to tell it what to do. Now, that's why a lot of people fear AI. I'm not here to talk about AI today. So they have energy, they have vitality, they have a form of brilliance, but they're as dumb as hell because they have no wisdom. And their biggest shared deficiency is a disdain for those who came before them, for the wisdom generations. See, other cultures and societies revere eldership because they recognize its nexus to wisdom. Present American generations, on the other hand, engage in peer worship and the idiotic belief that younger is always better. No, younger is always dumber. So, welcome to the age of ageism. There's a lot of isms out there, but we don't talk enough about ageism. There are folks with decades of experience and wisdom who are discarded in the marketplace and the workplace because they lack the requisite qualifier of youth. Young companies and startups and enterprises who possess true brilliance and wisdom could be benefited by the injection of wisdom that's abundantly available to them in the form of mature input. People who've been around the block. People for whom it's not their first barbecue. But instead, the blind lead the blind, and they rehash the same stupidity that they pass back and forth among themselves. I remember when startup culture, first kind of emerged among millennials, and there were some amazing successes. I referenced Uber before. Man, for the year or so that my son was at Uber, I would try to talk to him as often as I could, because what came out of that company, just, what was in their Kool-Aid was amazing. But the thing is, everybody started doing what everybody else does. And this whole, seed round, first round, second round, everybody started following the same pattern and playing the same game of Twister. And you ended up with one prime ingredient that was missing. Yeah, you raised a bunch of money, but you don't know how to build anything. So in workplaces across the country and around the world, the wise and the experienced end up reporting to kids who don't even know what 9/11 was. Meanwhile, VCs and banks freely invest billions of dollars, again, in the early stage, the second stage, and the growth companies, who then in turn burn through cash, but have no idea how to build a Lego set, much less build a successful brand or business, certainly not with longevity. So this template's become a religion in the investment world because they believe the kids must know what we don't. Well, I got a news flash for you. They don't. Because a handful of startups hit every year, while a barge load fail. They keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. And the mindset is, well, but there are some of these companies that are building billions in marketing cap. Yeah, but a blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while. Broken clock is right twice a day. There's such an obvious and easily available solution to building more brands with viability and longevity. Just couple the wisdom of the experienced in endeavors with the young and the brilliant. And young, be teachable. Stop letting the kids run the playground and put the adults back in charge. We have a wealth of mature human resources in every field. So let's team them up with the young and the bright and do great new things. But like so much of the unreality cohort's doctrine, ageism is robbing us of greatness now and the potential of more later. Ageism. I want to talk more about this in a minute because it's a hugely important topic that I don't really ever hear anybody talking about. And it's turning us into a dumpster fire. So I'm going to take a break. It's Des Dickerson with you again today on Super Talk 99.7 WTN, in for Chad. We're going to take a break. Be right back.